Do I have an NAS? No. What is that exactly? Is that like a hard drive structure, Tommy? Tell me more about what an NAS is. Is that a network thing? I want to learn. Network attached storage. It's basically your own personal cloud, a small computer hooked up to the network filled with hard drives. Interesting. I don't have that, but I'm assuming I could have that like at the studio and access it from my house? Huh. Tommy or anyone who uses it, what is the benefit of doing that and why is it good for producers? Like, why would a producer want to get an NAS? Is it because you can load your plugins on the NAS and all your computers can run it? How would that work? You can. Huh. Okay, Tommy, no pressure, but are you willing to jump in the Discord on video chat and tell the community about this? Because I think this is something we could all benefit from, and I want to learn, honestly. Whoa, you can access it from anywhere in the world. I've been blind, and now I can see. How fast is it, though? Like, say I want to load up an Omnisphere. Does it take like 5 seconds to load an Omnisphere from the NAS? How does that work? Okay, Tommy. Tommy's going to jump in and tell the community about the NAS. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, I'm loading up Discord now. First of all, tell us about you. Do you produce? Like, what do you do?
So, yeah, I just recently graduated from Berkeley in December of last year, 2 years ago. And so, yeah, I've been producing and been using Ableton since Live 8 and doing my own thing, world music, rock and roll, EDM. I've always been fascinated by network attached storages because not many studios use them unless it's like a video or photography studio, because that's what they're marketed towards. Because what you can do is, if you buy a ready-made NAS, it has a USB port where you would like load up all your photos onto the USB port or your photos off of your camera, and you just plug it into the NAS and it automatically backs it up. And then you can access those photos or videos from anywhere. And so if you have like a production team, right, and you're working on like a short 15-minute film, you would throw all the videos onto the NAS, and then the whole entire team can access the videos and edit directly off of the NAS. There's two different types of, well, I wouldn't say two, there's multiple, but different types of Ethernet ports on the back of the NAS to allow you to edit high quality or big files. The standard now is 2.5 gigs, right? Which you have your basic gigabit internet, which is like 1,000 megabytes. And then you have 2.5. Then from 2.5, there's 5, and then it goes to 10. Prosumer NAS is 10 gig, and 2.5 and 10 gig, and a little bit more starting to become common is 20 gig.
Do you mean terabytes?
Yes, but that's the speed transferring.
Got it. Okay.
10 gigabytes a second. So then you have commercial grade for like, I don't know, like a hospital or something that needs massive amounts. It goes from 40 gigs to 100 gigs, which is insane. Now, in order to edit something off of the NAS, you want at least a stable 10 gig connection so it's fast, as if like you just plugged in a hard drive and you're editing off of it.
A 10 gigabit connection?
Yes.
Is that a normal thing for like, if you have, I don't know, Spectrum or Xfinity or something? Is that normal? I think I have 1 gigabit and I thought that was pretty fast.
Yeah, 1 gig is really fast.
Okay.
And that's what most people have. And sooner or later, they're going to eventually, have the 2.5 gig, right?
Okay.
Which is like the next thing. Or 2 gig. But 10 gig, basically, it doesn't really refer to the network. It just refers to the transfer speed coming out of the Ethernet and going to your computer.
And that's in a direct wired connection or a wireless connection?
Direct wired connection.
From a production perspective, say I'm how I actually work. I have my laptop right now, but I would love to have like a Mac Pro at the studio. But I want to be able to share my data between, say, my laptop when I'm on the road and my Mac Pro at the studio. Like, what would be a good setup for that? Say I have an 8 terabyte drive to have all my plugins and all that. First of all, how would I install the plugins on this drive?
That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
The plugins you don't install on a NAS. It's mainly just like a Google Drive type
I
of
see.
situation.
Okay.
You could, I don't think I would, but it's possible. You
Mm-hmm.
can install your samples and all your sample libraries on the NAS,
Okay.
even though, according to Native Instruments, that's not recommended if you're using contact with the libraries
Got
type
you.
of situation. But what you could do is have the NAS at the studio and save all your Ableton projects onto the NAS and then access them on the road. As long as you have an internet connection, you could then save them back to the NAS.
So what is the benefit of having a NAS over like, say, a Dropbox?
So, my opinion, the benefit is that you own the storage; it's
Right.
yours.
Right.
You're not paying them. You're not paying a monthly fee,
Mm.
and like you set it up. You know, like where things are, how everything's structured. You don't gotta worry about things, and there's like different ways of setting it up. So there's two different types of like NASs now. There's like a regular network attached storage where you have different types of RAID. I think RAID 0 is all of the hard drives in one configuration that allows maximum speed. Then the most popular or common is RAID 5, which if you have four drives, right? Let's say you have four 10 terabyte
And
drives
then one of them
and
can
they're ready.
fail, right? Because the
Yeah,
fifth
so
one
yeah,
will
so
have the missing data.
exactly.
Okay.
So you'll have 30 terabytes, and then if one goes bad, you could
No
just
problem.
replace the drive. Then you have RAID 6, which is the same thing, but with two drives. Then you have this other thing, which is relatively new. It's this program called Unraid. Now, if you've ever watched Linus Tech Tips,
Yep.
he had Unraid server and briefly talked about it. And I just recently got into like looking it up and seeing all this crazy shit. And it's basically you could have as many drives as you want, varying different sizes all together. And a hard drive goes wrong or something, it'll get rid of a certain amount of storage rather than a certain amount of drives. It's a really weird thing. It's something to look up. But what's cool about Unraid that I just like saw a video was Linus set up a streaming PC for his employee. They used Unraid. They had about like 15 drives inside the PC so he could record all of the game captures. And he had a capture card with OBS running on as a virtual machine in Unraid. So
Hmm.
he had the server running Windows just so he could have a second streaming PC and like take a load off of the quote unquote production PC and let the streaming PC handle all the streaming.
That's pretty complex. I've never owned a RAID setup. What I normally do is I just buy those like 12 terabyte Seagates for like $100 or whatever.
More secure.
It's more secure.
Other thing that people do that's kind of common, I think it's referred to as like white labeling or white drives,
Yep.
is they'll buy like the 13 terabytes, whatever Seagates or Western Digitals,
Yep.
and then they'll chuck them by taking off
Take off the
the
case.
case
Yep.
and taking out the drive and throwing that into their server because it's cheaper.
Let me ask you a question. From a producer's standpoint, what are the positives and the negatives of using a NAS as a producer?
The biggest benefit, obviously, is, being able to back up your and access it anywhere. Do a whole Plex thing where your friends can access your library.
Say I have a beat on the NAS and I want to send it to an artist, text it to them. How do I send them that link? Like Dropbox, I would do copy link and then send it. How do you do that with a NAS?
Depending on which NAS you buy, they have their own way of doing it, but it's essentially the same thing. You would just go to the file and then like create a link. You just gotta mess with the settings depending on which NAS it is.
Would it be on your own server? Say I want to send a video file that's like 3 gigabytes to you. Can I make a link? And so I send you the link and then you click it and you can download the file?
Yep.
So it's basically like having your own Dropbox, but since you own it, it's like unlimited storage. Is that?
Yeah, and you can always upgrade the storage.
Okay.
It's only like bigger and bigger from there. The
Wow.
only downside is I'm not like 100% sure, but I would say maybe every 5 years you might want to just upgrade to faster system.
So SSD is probably the best way to go, right?
If you're gonna like edit and you want like super fast or you're doing 4K or 8K video editing, then yeah, you're gonna want SSDs in the NAS. But the downside to doing that is that things can get very expensive. Because
Right.
like right now, 2 terabytes of SSD storage is like $250.
If you want like 20 terabytes, we're talking a couple $1,000s. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. So say I have a Dropbox account and I'm working off the Dropbox. How would that compare to working off a NAS? Would NAS be faster? If I'm at my house 5 miles away and I have a network connection at the studio, what would be the difference between having like Dropbox or the NAS working from my house?
That's a good question. Honestly, I don't think there would be much of a huge difference because it is just, hooked up to the network. I think it wouldn't be much of a difference other than the fact that, like I said, anything goes wrong, you own it.
Anyone in the chat have any questions while we have Tommy on here? Tommy, thank you for joining in. I mean, I saw you write that in the chat, and I've been wanting to educate myself on this from a producer's perspective. And I don't think there's many production channels that have information about a NAS.
There's a good YouTube channel, NAS Compares,
Okay.
and that's literally all he talks about is like NAS systems and hard drives. If you go on his website, he gives free advice.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking to get something or build something, he's definitely a guy to talk to. There's some funny subreddits like data hoarders,
Okay.
which data hoarders is literally like a group of insane people who post up talking petabytes of storage.
Yep.
Like one of the latest posts on there was that apparently the Louvre Art Museum just uploaded their whole collection to the internet, and so now you could download it. They're a good resource to find out about like what drives you should get. Reddit's always good.
Drew Mokler said, I think the difference is that you must protect your own storage system rather than if you had a Dropbox or iCloud, you would not need to worry about it.
That too, which is why I recommend you could have 2 NASs. You could have one NAS at the studio and then one at home, right? And then whatever you put on the NAS at the studio automatically gets backed up to the one at home, or
Okay.
vice versa.
Got it.
So in the event of a fire, flood.
You have a backup.
Exactly.
I've never really entertained it. I've always been a Dropbox user. I have Backblaze because I like the idea that it's backing up all the time. But would this replace something like Backblaze? Is this a possibility? Or do you recommend still having another cloud service along with your NAS?
Doesn't hurt to have another cloud storage. I'll post it up in the Discord.
Okay.
I have this thing from a few years ago on like how to back up your files. You got to have them in like 3 different places.
Right.
Essentially.
But the NAS is at your studio and you could have it at your house too. So that's 2, but maybe the cloud could be the 3rd, for example.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you have your external drives as well.
I saw Croniac said he wants to link with you. I'm sure a lot of the community would love to link with you and pick your brain and just understand more about this. This is definitely a new thing I want to explore. I'll be honest, I don't know if I'm ready to commit to a NAS system because it seems like there's some maintenance and some other things that are required, but I definitely want to learn so when the time is right, that might be a good approach to file storage. Thank you for joining and helping the community with this. This is the first time I've ever seen a producer-centric community talk about this, so it's good having you on. Thank you for giving this info. Appreciate you, Tommy.
Yeah, no problem. I'll be in the Discord and you guys just hit me up.
Hell yeah. All right, Tommy. Peace.